Hey, welcome to the Journeys Webcast. Happy Monday, Happy New Year. This is the first Journeys Webcast of 2021, and I'm very excited. What an amazing woman I have as a guest today. It's really something. And I want to thank you. My name's Allan Karl, your host. I just want to let you know there's a chat box over there on the right-hand side. Introduce yourself. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Say hi, and if you have any questions during the webcast, you can go ahead and there's a little button down there. You can kind of convert it from a chat mode to a Q&A mode, and it'll flag it so we know you got a question. But we'll be checking them out all the time. Hey, before we get into it, and got some breaking news for some of you, but what I wanted to do is wish you guys and everyone in the world that happy Martin Luther King Day. And in honor of the great Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Martin Luther King, I thought it would be appropriate just to pay a little homage to him and play part of one of his most recognized speeches of all time. So while some more people keep tuning into the room, this is Martin Luther King Jr.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. One day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
You know, no matter how many times you see or listen to that speech, it is riveting and moving for me, and I imagine for many. So Martin Luther King Day, a fitting time to restart, because we took a couple weeks off of the Journeys webcast, and it's a fitting day to restart a new year, hopefully a new world. world once we get past this crazy pandemic, which of course, from the good side, that got me into doing these Journeys webcasts. But from the bad side, it's meant I've been glued to this seat and to this place and not getting on my motorcycle, or not flying and not traveling, not being with family, not being with friends. So 2021, we're going to get beyond all of that. So, hey, before I bring in Patti, I want to just kind of give you a couple things. There's a poll in the sidebar right now. I'm kind of curious how many of you have attended one of these webcasts in the past. So there's a little thing you can join there, and I hope that if it is your first time, you'll come back. We have a lot of repeat people. I love it. Joanne Foley, God, look at this, New York City. We've got Richard. Rich Wood, a guy I went to school with back in elementary school all the way through high school. Welcome, Rich. Nice to see you. Phyllis, nice to see you. Rosemary. Oh, that's so cool. Welcome back. And I know we've got some people, it looks like some people from Ontario who must live near that island that Patti spends her summers at. So anyway, welcome. Hey, first, some breaking news. Some of you may be on my mailing list. Got a newsletter in the last day or so. But my book, Forks, which is now in its 4th printing, and it's a big, hefty coffee table book with a hardcover. I do have a soft cover, less expensive version. But it's always been a challenge to me to figure out how to make this book available digitally, because it's got so many, 700 photographs. There's recipes, and it just is too big to fit into one digital file, to be honest with you. And it would also take, I think at the time, just to download that kind of thing. So what I did is I decided to take that book and break it down into 35 little ebooks. So now the file size is a lot smaller. I'm able to get the color photographs in there. And I've also added some enhanced content. That means videos, slideshows, sometimes narration. Hell, there's even a poem or two that I wrote that's in a couple of those editions. So for a moment, it's only available at the Apple Bookstore. And I already gotten people back to me asking if I can get it on Nook and things like that, because some people aren't on the Apple ecosystem, but that's where it is now. So I'm going to just put up a link in that. It's not really an offer, but this is a link that'll take you to the Apple Bookstore, and it will show you can actually preview books. You can even preview one of the videos. So even if you don't buy one, you can check it out. They're $2.99, and it's just one country is one chapter. So the Canadian chapter, for example, is a fun story of my journey through the Alcan up through British Columbia, which is where our guest is today. So that's a little bit of breaking news. The other bit of news, people always ask, I always do an update on my vertigo. That's a little bout I had back in June this year, which was really scary. I'm having more good days, I think, than I've had in the past. I keep doing my exercises, although during the holidays, I got to admit that most of my exercises was, I fell off the wagon, if you will. But I go to physical therapy once a week. It just takes time to get your body to habituate and, rewire your brain. So that's what I'm doing. Other than that, let us know what your plans are for the new year in the chat room over here. I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about Patti. This woman is amazing. She went back to school when she was 60 to kind of change her career. But let me tell you a little bit about her. But from under the big sky and beautiful trees of the SilverStar Mountain Resort in British Columbia, Canada, Patti is a freelance writer, journalist, and she's a global trekker. I mean, really incredible. Her articles have appeared in many regional, national, and even international publications, including Macleans, The Globe and Mail, San Francisco Chronicle, Elevation Outdoors, Travelife.ca, and Okanagan Life and Okanagan Woman magazines. And I love the Okanagan Valley because that's where some of the best wine in Canada is coming from. Not to put anything out to the to the region or near the Niagara Falls. But nonetheless, she left her job as an inner city educator and returned to school to change careers at 60 years. That started her out on a writing and trekking adventures all over the real world. 13 years later, at 73, Patti wrote her first book, Nepal, One Day at a Time. And I'm going to put that up in the offer section in a minute here. But it's subtitled One Woman's Quest to Teach, Trek, and Build a School in the Remote Himalayas. It was published and released on March 12th, 2020, the day before most of the world shut down. So poor Patti hasn't been able to go out and do book signings and events. So she's doing these kinds of things, which is cool. Writer's Digest, the critically acclaimed Writer's Digest, calls Nepal One Day at a Time a joy to read, an unfiltered and brave account of her solo journey, including the ups and downs, the beautiful, and then, of course, maybe the not so beautiful. She and her husband remain active and ski, paddle, and hike regularly. Most recently, the couple spent 25 days trekking the challenging Manaslu circuit in Nepal, and she'll tell us more about that. That tops out at a pass of 16,750 feet. Wow. Patti prefers the adventure of often rough, challenging, and dangerous trekking and exploring rather than the sedentary bus tours and cruises most people her age are doing. And in that way, through her writing and her perseverance, she inspires and helps others overcome fear, develop strategies for safe solo travel, and volunteer experiences in developing countries all over the world. She also aims to support travel writers of all ages. You can always start something new. And mostly represents, for sure, a woman's perspective in travel. Join me in welcoming Patti Lefkos to the Journeys Webcast. Patti, did I do it right?
You did. Hi.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Is my screen on?
Yeah, I can see you.
Yeah, I seem to be frozen.
Oh, well, do you want to click off
again?
And go back to the original link?
Let me see. Oh, we're good now.
Okay.
Yep.
I just put in the sidebar for those who are interested, Nepal One Day at a Time. There's a link there. You can see it on Amazon. You can see the reviews. It came out in March. But Patti, I gotta know what got into you. You know, you had a wonderful career as an educator and administrator in the Canadian education system, and you decided to go back to work. What was going on in your head?
Well, I always wanted to be a writer. When I was 10 years old, I was left $100 by my maternal grandfather, Grandpa Gordon, and Mom and Dad just said, buy something important that you'll remember Grandpa by. And I bought a typewriter and declared that I would be a writer, but it took me quite a while to get back to it. So I got into education. I loved it. I had an extremely rewarding career, but there was something still left to do. So I bit the bullet and went back to school, which was pretty scary at first. When I was in the lineup to get my press pass, the administrator there thought I was somebody's mother or grandmother, not the student. I had to explain, no, this was for me.
So you're in line getting a pass, and people think, this woman's not she's not here for school or that. So what did you tell them, and how did they react?
Oh, I just said, no, I'm the student and I'm going to be in the course. There were 23 of us. You had to apply and take a pre-exam and everything. So I got in. And I was 60, and I had a friend who was in his 40s, and all the rest of the kids were in their 20s. So it was a lot of fun. They helped me a lot.
They helped you a lot. So here you go. You just kind of flipped your whole thing on end. You were the teacher before, and now you're the student. How was it? How was, like, now all of a sudden you have to do homework?
Oh yeah, it was tough. I worked pretty well 6 days a week on things, because it wasn't the writing only that was a challenge. We did newspaper, radio, television, ethics classes, but the technology was the real challenge, because, you know, when I was a school administrator, I had a secretary to do those things. And suddenly I had to figure it all out myself. So the kids helped me with that. And then I helped them getting interviews with people, important people in Vancouver that I knew well from, you know, from being an administrator. So, you know, we supported each other really well.
That's fantastic. Hey, you know, it's one of the things we always do here on the webcast is to have a little glass of wine and a toast. So I've got this wine here. I'll just tell you a little bit about it. It's called Arrived. It's from Paso Robles, and it's a unique blend of it's Grenache Blanc, and this other one is called Clairette Blanche. So it's obviously a French varietal that I don't know. So I'm going to pour a glass and let's have a toast, and then we'll I get a little vino in my glass. You got a glass there?
I do.
Excellent.
So
I'll let you lead the toast.
I'll tell you the SilverStar toast, because I live at SilverStar Ski Resort in BC. And here we say at SilverStar, up your mountain. And you respond,
up yours.
Up yours. That's it.
Cheers, man.
And cheers. I'm drinking an Australian wine because I'm missing all the Australians here. Half the town is missing. All our friends from Australia couldn't come this year. So
a lot of Australians come to SilverStar, huh?
Oh, they come and they stay. They own homes. The people that are retired stay for 3 or 4 months, the whole season. And
so if you look at
a lot of our.
So if you look out your window right now, what are you seeing?
Snow. A lot of snow.
And any skiing today for you?
No, not this morning. I was writing. I'm writing another book, but yesterday I was out snowshoeing and skiing the day before. So you just kind of look at the weather and decide what you're going to do that day.
Snowshoeing and skiing. I love it. I hope that I would be able to keep up with you when I'm your age, man. That is just incredible. I don't think I could keep up with you now, to be honest with you. I want to talk about how this, you know, obviously you live in British Columbia, which is, by the way, I tell my friends, I says, you know, when I was traveling through British Columbia, I thought it never ended because it just kept going on. And of course, during the summer, there was never any nighttime either, the further I got. So it is God's country. It's such the natural beauty. I mean, it's one of those places where you just want to stop every, you know, I drove up the Alcan. Obviously, there's the Cassiers. How do you say the other? There's another road that there's another road.
Cassiar.
Yeah. So you know, these are some of the most incredible places that you just want to, every 5 minutes, there's like a reason to stop and just take in the air, take a photograph. But so being there, obviously you're active and you like to ski and snowshoe, but where did the passion for international trekking really kick in for you?
Well, it's interesting. Ontario has grade 13. I was raised in Toronto. And so for grade 13, I went to Switzerland for a year to school. And I lived in a place called Neuchâtel, and across Lake Neuchâtel, you could see the Alps. And I fell in love with the mountains. And then I came home to Ontario and realized it was kind of flat. So after university and 6 years of teaching in Toronto, I left and I headed west. And then it's been really, you know, very myopic about our careers, I guess. We worked very hard for a long time. And I didn't even have a passport until we retired again. Although we did a lot of North American ski trips and canoe trips and things like that, and hiking. But when we retired, we thought we wanted to start international.
You don't start off 2021 with a little bit of challenge, you know. It is. It's very important to learn how to solve problems. Turn obstacles into opportunities. So you were talking, Patti, about the um, looking international, that you and your husband didn't even have, other than traveling obviously North America, didn't even have a passport. What was your um, first adventure outside North America?
The first was going to England, and I think you have a picture of that. We went to hike the coast to coast trail from one side of England to the other, and we thought that would be a good kind of a shakedown trip. And at that point, I had never hiked with a backpack for more than 3 days in a row. So that was a real challenge for me. And, you walk all day, every day, and there's no altitude involved, but it was interesting to see how we did. I think that was 10 days. So that was our first trip. We figured it's a little bit easier. Now, keeping in mind, my husband didn't have to worry. He was a mountain guide, a Canadian mountain guide before he was a teacher. He was fine. But for me, I was not used to that kind of thing. So that was a good way to start.
That was a good. That's 10 days, right? That's yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
And
we ended up in cushy B&Bs every night. So
so there's a good yeah. Well, I'm sure you're going to give us a contrast to that once we get talking into the Himalayas. But yeah, so you come back after a 10-day kind of a, what they call this, in the U.S. They call it glamping sometimes, when you go and you're camping, but it's a little bit, somebody there's a real bed in a tent, and these kinds of things. But you come back from this trip, and you're in the midst of this new career, getting a new degree in journalism. How then did you get your first gig? We know that travel writing is a dream for so many people. Who doesn't have, if with some kind of capability, say, God, I would love to travel the world, write or photograph it, and that would be my job. How did you get your first gig?
Well, actually, my first one was before I went to journalism school. It was we took my husband and I took 8 teenage students to paddle the Yukon River from Johnson's Landing down to Dawson City, and we camped every night. And I contracted for no money at the time, but contracted with the Richmond. Richmond is the section of the Lower Mainland next to Vancouver. It's a suburb. And so I contracted with the newspaper there to send stories back. And so I did some pre-trip stories, articles for their newspaper. And then halfway along, I think we were 3 weeks on the Yukon River. Halfway along, we found a library with an internet in one little town, and I sent another story back. So I was being a foreign correspondent. and then I did some follow-up articles when I got back. So it was a series, and that was a good experience, and it was a lot of fun. I did end up getting paid a bit, but not much. But that got me going.
Yeah, sometimes travel writing, particularly at least in this internet age, it's you do it for the love, the passion for the travel, not so much for the money. It doesn't really pay that much. But let's fast forward to your Himalaya experience. In gleaning over, and we'll look at some photographs here in a second. But I'm curious, how many trips did you go to Nepal, and how did the idea of helping and building a school evolve?
Well, right after England, we went to Tibet, and then we took a giant leap and decided, well, there was too much driving in the Tibet trip. So we decided we wanted to do a lot more trekking. So we had a big discussion, my husband and I, he said, well, he wanted to do the Annapurna circuit and Annapurna Base Camp. And then I said, well, I've heard about this area called Upper Mustang that's very Buddhist and old, and that would be interesting. And then he said, well, if we're going all that way, not liking long flights, we might as well do Everest Base Camp. So we ended up putting together a 3-month trip. And that was absolutely magnificent. And we had a guide called Raj and a porter called Keel, and they came from a little village. And so by the end of the trip, we kind of learned a lot about their families and about the culture. And we thought next time we come back, it would be really great to be able to visit their village and do some volunteering and help them out at their school. And so we kind of planned a return trip. And just, a couple of months before we were to go back, Barry ruptured his Achilles tendon. So I thought, we'd have to wait another 18 months. Now, in the meantime, my sister had been diagnosed with early onset dementia, which was surprising. She was a very vibrant, strong yoga teacher and had been a teacher. And then my best friend had cancer. She beat it, but it was rough. And these things were happening all around me. And I thought, I was 67 at the time. If I don't go now, maybe I'll never get the chance to go. And so Barry listened for a long time, and he did support me to go. I went and I volunteered in a little village called Ratmate in Gorkha. It's about a 7-hour rough 4-wheel ride out of Kathmandu. And at the end of this volunteer time, they took me to a village called Aprik. And Aprik, I was the first one to visit Aprik. No other foreigners had ever gone there because it's way off the beaten track of any of the trekking. And so these people welcomed me. I felt like Queen Elizabeth. There were flowers for me everywhere in this tiny little village at the end of a road. And they showed me their school that was falling down around the children. There were 2 stories to the school. The top story had been condemned, and the rain was coming right down through to the main floor. And the kids were still had classes on the main floor, even though the top was condemned. And so the vice principal was the one who spoke a bit of English, and he asked, would I help them build a school? And I left feeling like a huge imposter. I thought, do they think all Westerners are wealthy? And, what could I do? Could I raise funds? It would cost a lot of money. What could I do? And after that, I went on a month-long trek to the area of Upper Mustang. And during that time, I met a lot of monks and teachers and just local people who showed me how important education was to them. And I saw the needs everywhere. The needs were incredible. And so that became my purpose, to build them a school.
Wow. This village, where you took this 4-hour ride out of Kathmandu, rough 4x4, I'm sure, kidneys are bouncing and everything else. About how many people live in the village? And I'm curious, what do the people do? Are they there? I mean, obviously their school's crumbling, but how are they sustaining themselves? I mean, do they grow crops? Are they involved in commerce of any way? Obviously, tourism's not hit that part of Nepal yet. So, what were they doing?
It's really subsistence farming. There are a few people that go back and forth to Kathmandu and might have some kind of small business, but mainly it's subsistence farming. So they're growing corn and wheat and barley and, the way they've been for centuries. There are about 225 kids in that school, kindergarten to grade 8.
Oh, wow.
They don't ever get past grade 8, or very few of them, because to go to grade 9 and 10, they have to go to another village, and they can't walk it. It's not a day's walk. So they would have to go and board there with a family. And if they don't have enough money, that's it. Grade 8 is it. So now we're hoping to extend it to grade 10.
Extend the existing school to grade 10. So they don't have to.
The one we built. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And this journey is documented in Nepal, right? Your book.
Mhm.
How did the process of writing a book come? I mean, you obviously had writing experience. You were doing the journalism. Writing is one of those, and I know you're working on a new one, so we want to hear about that. But how long did it take you to write that book? And were you able? It just came out, so I'm sure you haven't even had a chance to bring a copy back to that village. But
No.
how did the process come together for you?
Well, first I started writing stories about the trip, about little bits of it. I wanted to elevate my writing, so I joined a group called Booming Ground. University of British Columbia has an online course, not a master's of fine arts. I didn't want a master's. I just wanted to improve my writing. And so I started writing a bunch of stories about the trip and the people. And then the idea came to put it into a book. And then actually inspired by Connor Greenan's book, Little Princes. Some people might know that book. He's Next Generation Nepal. And I noticed on the back of his book, he said that a percentage of the profits would go to helping kids that were taken from their families and repatriate them with their families in Nepal. And so that kind of made it even more interesting that what I've done is say that 100% of the profits go back to the village.
So the 100% of the profits of your book go back to that village to help further the education.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's remarkable. Let's get into some photos here, and you could share with us a little bit about your experiences and what's going on here. This must be Tibet, I'm guessing, but
this is Everest Base Camp North in Tibet.
Oh.
Most people think of Everest Base Camp on the Nepal side. This is on the north side. That's our guide, Wang Du, a young Tibetan man who told us he was 23, but was actually 18 at the time. That's at an altitude of about 17,000. Excuse me, and we were pretty well acclimatized by then, so no medication necessary or anything. So that was our first big trip after the shakedown to England, and kind of a big leap. But in grade 10, I'd read a book called Lost Horizon about the finding of Shangri-La. And then just before I retired, the Dalai Lama came to Vancouver, and my school choir got to sing for him. And it all kind of developed into this. We wanted to go to Tibet. We wanted to go to Lhasa. And then just a few days before this photo was taken, we had done a Kora, or a circumambulation around sacred Mount Kailash. And we'd gone over a high pass there that was 18,500 feet. And that was my first time at altitude. And, I was actually okay because we'd taken so many days to drive out to that area that, we didn't stay long, 20 minutes at the top of the pass and then down the other side. But we had good guides, and good company.
How's the terrain?
Oh, it was very arid, very rocky. Mm-hmm. Little bit of snow. It was early June. Little bit of snow.
Early June.
Yeah. And that's at the pass. That's Barry, my husband, at 18,500, 18,600, I guess it was. Yeah.
Wow.
Magical place. Now it took. We were with a group of Westerners, mostly American, actually. It took us 3 days, and we camped. Most local Tibetans do it as a sacred pilgrimage, and they do it in 24 hours. So they start at midnight, and they're back around the circle at midnight. So you see these, there was a lovely old monk that came by me, and they just keep on going. And
they literally 24 hours. They're not stopping.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Wow. And I'm sure sustaining themselves with they're carrying some grains, rice. What about water?
they'd probably have maybe a small thermos. There are some creeks. Certainly on the third day for us, on the way out, there's a lot of water because there's a river going down. But they have a barley flour called sampa. And if they put that in tea, that makes a substantial meal. And maybe that, I didn't notice what people had actually. But.
Huh. You know, in the Andes, of course, the altitudes get close to these. I think the highest I ever hit was 16.5. And the local people in Peru and Bolivia, of course, chew on the coca leaves, the stuff that is a part of what makes cocaine. But they're not making cocaine, but they chew on the coca leaf because it helps them helps with that altitude sickness. Is that Sempra possibly something similar, or?
Sempa, no, it's just that's their staple diet at low
just
or
the
high
staple.
altitudes. Yeah. And
Okay.
I think some of.
Oh, we froze for a second here. Patty.
Take it. We have one med called diamantiums. Unfortunately, we did have a gentleman die on that trip after he had gone around the pass. He had pulmonary edema and cerebral edema, and he died in Lhasa 5 days later. A gentleman he was about a 60-year-old American guy.
Really? Yeah. How many people? Oh, that's so sad. I'm so, I want to come back to that. How many people were with you on this, in this circuit?
I think there were 10 in our group. They were a lot slower than we were. And I said to Barry on the day we were to go over the high pass, day 2, I just said, I don't know. I can't stay back because I know how far it is on the other side. We'd done our homework and we had our own map and everything. So I said, 20 minutes max at the top, and we're going over the other side. And we actually turned out to be the only ones that made it on foot to the camp on the other side, which was about 5 hours past this pass.
Oh my!
Quite a few people of the others had to get a horse on the other side to bring them down. It was a pretty horrible night. It started to snow. We helped the trekking company put up the tents, and they don't usually allow you to do that, but we helped them put up the tents. We got everybody's bags out, put their sleeping bags out. So when they got there, which was well after dark in this snowstorm, they were okay. But it had affected this one gentleman, so he didn't make it 5 days.
And is that as a result of the thinning air and the altitude?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I don't know what else might have been wrong with him.
Mm-hmm.
But, he had seemed okay. But,
wow.
But there were only a certain number of horses to go down to the camp, the second camp where we were. So he and the Canadian guide and a few others stayed a bit higher. Whether that bothered him or not, I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still remain connected to some of the people on this trek?
I did for a while, but not now. That
not
was
so much.
2009. Yeah.
2009.
But it taught us a lot. It really taught us that we needed to go by ourselves and have our own guide and porter, so that, for instance, the first 5 days on the Annapurna circuit, we got to 12,000 feet, and I was suffering with headaches and nausea and everything. And we just said, okay, we'll stay here a day. We had a guide, of course, and Raj just said, we'll stay here for a day and see how you feel and take a little bit of medication. But if you're with a big group, you don't have that choice, and I would feel self-imposed pressure to push on. Whereas if you're on your own, and it doesn't cost an awful lot more than a group trip, so it's certainly worth it.
I mean, I'm a solo traveler at heart, and occasionally connect with people for a period of time here or there, but having that freedom is something that I call some people that go on these tours or trips checklist tourism. So they just want to check it off their list as opposed to experiencing that. And it sounds like you definitely had experienced quite a bit of this.
Well, for instance, this is on the Annapurna circuit, and I couldn't find the photo with our guide and porter with us, Raj and Keel, but we'd been with them for 2 or 3 weeks at this point, and as I said, we ended up together for 3 months, so we really got to know them well. And I found when you're in a big group, you talk to other people in the group who are Westerners. When you're on your own or just with one other person, you really get to know the locals a lot more. So,
Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
That's exactly. Yep.
You learn a lot more about the culture that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and you never know what to expect, because this is called a pass called Thorong La. So we were there probably late October. About 5 years later, on almost the same date, quite a few people died in a freak snowstorm. Ugh. So, you can never tell what's going to happen in the mountains. I mean, it looks like we have rain jackets on. Those jackets were, that is my rain jacket, but it's over my down jacket for a windproof. And I've got, heavy pants on. There was a bit of snow on the ground. And, you have to have a good guide, somebody that knows what they're doing. I just didn't say a lot. There are guides that I don't think are as experienced. We go with a very good company called Ace the Himalaya, and those guys all know what they're doing.
And it looks like Barry's got 2 pairs of gloves on. One, he's cut the fingers. Is that right, or is that just a two-toned?
No, it's 2 pair, because the ones inside probably allow him to use his camera. He does amazing photography for our slideshows, and so the fingerless gloves over top kind of keep you warm, but you can still use your fingertips for the camera.
Yeah, interesting. Good idea. Yeah, I can see he's got obviously he's packing the low pro backpack there with the easy quick access to the DSLR. I hope once traveling's again, you guys let me know. I want to come see one of your slideshows. Hey, for those of you who are just tuning in, by the way, I'm talking with Patti Lefkos, who's from British Columbia, who at 60 years old changed careers, became a journalist, wrote her first book at 73. She has trekked, at these age over 18,000 feet. And check out her website, pattyshalesLefkos.com. You'll see the URL in the corner of each of these images. And her book is in the little offers section right there. So check that out. I wanted to let you know that Alan Fletcher is one of your readers, believe it or not. And he says it's an amazing book, full of stories, wonderful people. We loved the book. So there is a review right here live on the Journeys Webcast. Okay. Nice. So let's come back here, because we're going to get into the school thing, I believe, because Patti sent me these pictures. I was going to count the I don't even know what they're called on the octopus. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, there's 8. Okay, octo.
Yeah. Well, when I went back by myself after that first 3-month trip, and then Barry ruptured his Achilles and couldn't go, so I went back to our guide and porter's village and did some teaching. I said I would volunteer for a while, and I started teaching grade 2 in Toronto, but I'm telling you, teaching grade 2 in Nepal was scary. There are things you can be afraid about solo travel, but that was one of them. The kids are very used to rote learning, and so, but they wanted me to introduce, newer techniques, but I tried to do it too quickly, and I didn't listen. I didn't observe the other teachers enough to see really what was happening, because I figured I've been a teacher for, how many years? I'll be fine. And I took charts with me, and I had English songs prepared. And I thought I'll play them on the CD player. Well, of course, that doesn't work because electricity doesn't work most of the time. It was a disaster. There was about 25 or 30 kids in the grade 2 class, one eraser. It was just wild. And if you put stickers on their work, they went ballistic. things that we take for granted in North America. So I really had to take a few steps back. And Raj, my guide, turned from guide into classroom assistant immediately and stayed with me. He was fabulous. But it was hard. It was very hard. It was wonderful too. I learned a lot. And by the end of my time, I was, a lot better. But you can see, though, there were a few things, like I'd put a world map up there beside the whiteboard, but it would fall down.
Yeah, I see
10
that.
Minutes. Because and there's charts on the left there. They would fall down all the time because it's just a cement bunker of a room with nowhere to put stuff up. And because it's very humid, this was April that year, everything falls down. So big deal. I had a lot of masking tape with me. It didn't do me any good. And the whiteboards are falling apart. We brought enough money with us or I did, from family and friends and teaching friends to buy whiteboards, new whiteboards for every classroom, and sports equipment for other schools. But really, they have nothing. No library books. As soon as we had a day off, we walked the 2 hours straight downhill to the town of Aragat, about 4,000 people, and I went and bought more pencils and erasers and crayons and pencil crayons. They had none of that. None.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when did tell us a little bit about the process of building a new school, right? Or did you renovate the existing school? How did that come about?
No. The day I went after this volunteer teaching that you see in this, they took me to Apric Village. And then I came home and thought, well, what can I do? But maybe I should do something. And so started to investigate putting a nonprofit together. And then 1 year to the day later, the earthquake hit Nepal, April 25th, 2015. The old school fell down totally. Luckily, it happened on a Saturday. No kids anywhere were in school. So every house in that village and the village where I was volunteering were ruined because Gorkha, this area, was the epicenter of the earthquake. So all over Nepal, 8,000 people died, but 22,000 were injured, I think. But the Gorkha area was hit very, very hard. And nobody could get in to help because the roads were all wrecked as well. So, so anyhow, came home, and really when the earthquake happened, that got us really ramped up to get on with some fundraising and to help build a school. And so Barry put together his slides from the 3 months of trekking, and we had our first fundraiser here at SilverStar with a slideshow. And we raised $1,000 that first night. And then in the middle of that, I had joined the Rotary Club here in Vernon, BC, which I'm in the largest Rotary Club. I took them the project, and so they helped. We had summer fairs where we would sell art cards, slideshows. We just kept going, and by 2017, we were back. That's actually picture number 13, if you're looking. We were able to return to Apric Village to see the first 4 classrooms built. And then I was able to return a year later, to see the school completed. To see the,
well, we'll come back to those right now. I'm not sure what number this is, but
that's okay. This is the area where I was volunteering. So that's where I would sleep after my day teaching. The gate at the top that school is gone because it was wrecked in the earthquake, but the gate at the top was into the schoolyard. I slept in the yellow dome tent, and then the other yellow tent was my dining tent where I could read and do my marking at night, and the blue tent was for a cook and for the guide, Raj. A lot of volunteers that go there end up staying in homes. And I would have loved to have done that, but I have a bit of asthma and they cook indoors, so I wasn't able to. But and then there was one Western toilet in the village, so I would walk up through that gate, up the stairs.
So when we say Western toilet, we're not talking about where you put your feet. They show you got places for your.
No.
This is an actual.
an actual Western toilet. There's one in the village for volunteers, and it was set for me, reserved for me. So, but I had to go up these really bad stairs, cement stairs that were kind of oddly canted. So I didn't go up in the middle of the night much. I kind of waited till dawn. I didn't want to fall down the stairs, frankly. So.
Yeah. Well, that would not be a good thing. Is to have Patti at the bottom of the stairs at 3 a.m. No way.
No, exactly. This shows when I went to Aprig Village.
This is where they treated you like a queen. Look at this.
Yes,
look at that. Look at this. What do you call that?
It's a mala necklace of flowers, and the green one is grass. They've made it that morning, all by hand. And then every one of the kids had flowers to give me. And I walked along between the 2 rows of kids and into the schoolyard to see the old school that was falling down. And, I was only there for 3 or 4 hours, but that vice principal, he's not there anymore, but he made quite an impression on me. He really explained what these kids needed. And you could see it was so important to him.
This was your inspiration, this 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
And you can see that the kids are all, they have uniforms. They're all in matching colors.
Yeah. The kids in the other school did too. It's interesting. I don't know how they do it, because there's one tap in the village in these places. They don't have running water. They don't have well, they do have kind of electricity now here, but somehow they come out looking so clean and fresh and nice in the morning. And if you take a close look at a lot of their shirts and the uniforms, they're a little bit raggedy.
Mm-hmm. I want to let everybody know I put up a poll in the right hand column here to.
Like that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was talking over you for a minute. There's a poll in the sidebar there. I'm asking people if you've ever been to Nepal, and so far 100% say not yet. But I yet know. Okay, there it is. Because I know at least 1 or 2 people on this that I've seen, or at least one person who's chatted here. Chris asks, "What's the name of the village you?" We lost Patti for a minute. And we'll come back down. Okay, you there, Patti? Kind of lost you for a minute. You froze. If you can hear me, you might want to. Okay. We love these challenges.
We're back.
Patti is. Hey, Chris is asking once again. What was the name of the village you had the school?
Oh, it's called Aprik, Aprik. You won't find it even on Google Earth. You can find Aragat, which is the town we went to buy the pencils and erasers. And it's about 2-hour walk up to Ratmate, where I was teaching, and another 4 hours walk up to Aprik. But they're such small villages that they're not on those maps.
They're not on map. Yeah.
I know
Chris,
where they are, and I've looked, but yeah.
Chris is a neighbor of mine, actually, and before the pandemic, he was able, with his wife and a friend, they went and did motorcycling in Nepal, and and just trying to see. We've got, let's see, the poll's been updated, so we have 25% of those who've answered the poll have been to Nepal. So we're not sure how many that is, but there you have that. But you can tell in this photo there's such great spirit in your smile, and you can just feel the joy you have there. I get it looking at this photo. I love this. Who took this photo?
I think Raj, my guide, probably.
Okay.
He would, I just hand him my camera. I had a very small camera. I'm not a photographer the way Barry is. So he set this little Nikon Coolpix camera I bought on high res to get the best photos we could. And, I just tried my best, and Raj is pretty technical, so he helped me a lot.
Chris, the neighbor of mine who motorcycled in Nepal, he says, love to hear of your service to the schools and children. It's moved him. And And thanks for Don. It's Arugat is the correct spelling of that, the town where you got the pencils.
Ghat.
Ghat. Okay. Ghat.
Yeah, Arugat. Yeah.
All right. I think people are concurrently looking at maps now, trying to follow where Patty's been. It's fun. It's fun. Let's see. What do we got next here? Let's go. Who is this lovely woman? They need to. Somebody needs to get you some new clothes. Look at that. They can't even get you some gloves with the fingers. No, I'm joking, but that's.
No, it was very hot, but I was wearing those gloves because I always use trekking poles. The backs of my hands were getting very sunburned, and I had a bad sunburn on one lip too. So I had to keep the wide-brimmed hat on. This is at a pass called Niala. It's in Upper Mustang, about 3 days from the capital of Lomantang. You start in jumps. You fly from Kathmandu or Pokhara to Jompsum and walk from there. So this would be maybe at the end of 5 days walk. That's about 12,500 feet, I think. One of the
12.5. And what's the mountain behind us? Is that a named mountain?
Oh, you're gonna ask me? No, I don't. Yes, I'm sure it is. And Raj could tell me, but I can't. I'm sorry. Probably, it's looking back to the Annapurna. Okay. I would think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I out of the 80 countries I've traveled, I still have yet to go to Nepal, and it's really interesting. So a good friend of mine who lived in New York City for many years, now lives actually in California in Santa Monica, but he has a apartment in the West Village of New York City. Which is a great neighborhood. Things are all changed now, but there is always one of these little convenience stores, or what do we call them, bodegas, where you can get your staples, and right like a block from his building there. And whenever I visited him in there, inevitably I go there to buy a bag of chips or a soft drink or a beer, and the guys that own it are Nepalese, and one of the workers there, who I met, this goes back probably 5 years ago, and I wish I thought about it, but every once in a while he's now back in Nepal, but he's on my Facebook, and with almost rhythmic, repetitive, he reaches out to me every so many months and says, "Hey, how you doing?" And he even calls me on that face. He's like the only person who uses the FaceTime audio call for me. So every once in a while, he just checks in, and he keeps asking me, "When are you going to go to Nepal, Allan? When are you going to go to Nepal?" And he's just one of several. I actually met another guy from Nepal when I was traveling through South America, which is interesting because you run into a lot of Germans, you run into a lot of Dutch, Israelis, but you don't see a lot of Nepalese traveling, do you?
No. Only for work to Dubai. Yeah.
To Dubai, yeah, there you go. Here we have...
this gentleman is Kenpo Suang. Kenpo is like doctorate. And he was actually the one that really helped me crystallize my ideas about helping to build a school. This is very close to the Tibet border. It's about 13,000 feet. And I had an afternoon with him. He, is in the midst of building a large school and dormitories, so children from all over the area can come and live there during the summer, and then in the winter they go to another school lower down. And he puts this together by fundraising, by going and giving Buddhist teachings. He's the head of the monastery there, and he gives Buddhist teachings.
We lost Patty. She froze for a second. We will see her back. I'm going to pull up here and see if I can do this while we wait for Patti to come back. See if I can do this. Does this work? Okay, let's go over here. You can see, first of all, where Nepal is. Okay. Okay, you're back. I just pulled up the map because I was gonna that red dot is Aragat, and we'll zoom in, but you can see the bordering. You can see here's Kathmandu, which is it's the capital and the largest city in Nepal, and that's where people arrive for those Everests. But you can see the neighboring countries. Now, there's another. I mentioned to you a guest who was on my show, Journeys. The very beginning, one of the first one, Jeff Sauls, who's also a mountain climber and trekker. And you can see over here to the right, Sikkim. I'm underlining it, Sikkim, which is this kind of a wild area. He actually led about 6 or 7 people and did a 10-day trek through Sikkim, which is
that'd be beautiful.
Yeah, I mean the photos are there, but you've got obviously you've got India and China and Bhutan, not far away. And let's see, where are we? Where's Pakistan? Boom, there's Pakistan. Still a bit far away, and that's when you start getting into the stands. But when you zoom into this remote area, of course, we won't find the village, but you can see. So this is the municipality of Aragat, which is, as you said, 4,000 people. But when you look out here, there's nothing.
That's going up the hill to Ratmate and then over to Abrook from there.
Yeah. So
the trekking portion, the photo that was just up there with me with Khenpo Swang, that's up near the China-Tibet border. And
up near the border.
Yeah, that's northwest of Kathmandu and where I was. So it's quite far away. The border's about a mile away there.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and this was on our first trip when we were there for 3 months, and we reached the capital city, Lomantang, in Upper Mustan. They're also quite close to where Khenpo's monastery is. And we got an audience with the king, Jigme Palbar Bista, the 25th hereditary king of Upper Mustan. So
and he's the guy behind you?
Yeah, that's Raj, our guide on the right, Raj Nipani. Mm-hmm.
So while you were treated like a queen, you got to actually visit a real king.
We did.
That's very cool.
He's since deceased, sadly. And at that actual time, he had been demoted to the level of Raja because Nepal became one large conglomerate in 2008. So there was another king, so he lost that. But he was well respected and in this whole area of Upper Mustan, as respected as the king of Nepal was. Yeah.
Wow. And it looks like artwork behind Barry, or that's a table that's just so ornate and
it's a cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all hand carved and then hand painted. There are a lot of those in those rooms. This king lived in a 5-story palace that had been there inside the medieval walled kingdom for 25 generations. It's pretty amazing.
Wow. And to the left of the cabinet there, this cylindrical has imagery that
Mm-hmm.
Is this imagery from Buddhist texts, Bhagavad Gita, or
I would say Buddhist, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Buddhist rather. Okay.
Mm-hmm. There are 3 monasteries
and then
there.
And I love the pillows too, because I'm sure those are all hand woven and probably natural dyed threads. This is the kind of stuff that when you're there, you don't necessarily maybe notice or think about. But then when I look at a photograph like this, this is the kind of stuff as a writer, immediately I'm drawn to, because you're out in the middle of nowhere. We just saw on the map. I mean, it's obviously this was your first trip, so it's a little different location, but still you were out there, in a 5-story palace of a king. Come on, that's awesome.
Yeah. These are the guys I was with on my solo trip. That's Raj again in the front, and Tika Ram in the middle.
Okay.
He's kind of an extra porter. He just came to take tents because in Upper Mustang you can't always get lodging that's suitable, and so he was carrying tents. And then Rasham was our porter, kind of junior guide. Raj, Rasham, and all the people that work for Ace of the Himalaya are all from Gorkha, all from that one neighborhood. Great bunch of people.
Yeah, and it looks like, what's the supplemental porter's name again?
Tika Ram.
Tika. Looks like Tika, he took his hat off for that photograph. I mean, everyone else has got their hat on.
Well, what's interesting is, Raj had been up in this area with us 3 years before. Excuse me, Rasham and Tika Ram had not. They were very, very interested because it's so different than Gorkha. Gorkha is extremely green and lush and really palm trees and bananas. And then you go up here and it's actually the Tibetan plateau. You're inside Nepal, but it's the roof of the world plateau.
Yeah, and as you were talking about before earlier, but you can see the in the foreground these arid mountains, but yet juxtaposed against that massive glacial just alpine beauty. Yeah, and then the valley is lush and green right below. What beautiful landscapes you find in this part of the world. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so now let's I'm always playing with.
I think I'm frozen. Oops, let me just do
You're moving.
I'm moving.
You're moving. I can. Yep.
Okay. This is going back. This is Aprik again, and Barry and I on the left, and then on the right is Prem K. Khatri. He is the head of Ace the Himalaya and also the NGO Sambhav Nepal that we partnered with. Sambhav Nepal, Rotary, Kalamalka Rotary in Vernon, and Nepal One Day at a Time, our nonprofit, put together a partnership to build the school. And the lady on the right is called Mary Jackson, and she was the president of the Rotary Club the year before. So she wanted to come and check out where the money was all going and what was happening and meet the people. And so this is us being welcomed back to the village to see the first four classes.
And of course, both of you women have is it the Mara? Is that what is it called again? Mela. Beautiful, with the flowers and the greens in there.
Well, it was pretty exciting because they stopped the Jeep at a village about 45 minutes before Aprik. It's called Arabang. And we got out and Prem said, well, they're going to come and meet us here. And I said, I don't see anybody, are we at the wrong time or what? We went around the corner and there was practically the whole village there waiting to walk us back, to carry our packs, to take our hands. And they had traditional instruments and drums and horns, and we paraded back to the village. It was pretty special.
One of our attendees, Rudy Maxa, who's actually a travel writer, travel TV host, a travel radio host, and a legend on PBS, NPR, and broadcast station over. Rudy, are you asking about the woman on the right, Mary Jackson? He thinks he knows her. So we'll see if Rudy is tuned in here. Is she from? She's from Ontario or BC?
No, BC, Armstrong, BC.
Armstrong. Okay, so I don't know, Rudy, if that's the same person, but and if this is the photo, because I was in a different view of this, so I don't know what. Yes, okay. So Rudy says yes. Do you know her, Rudy? This is the great thing about the Journeys webcast is this interaction with people that you never know in the small world. He doesn't know her, but he thought he did. Okay, Rudy, thanks, and thanks for tuning in. Rudy, by the way, I'll give him a plug on Thursdays. He does a similar kind of webcast live stream and get some incredible journalists. He's had Andrew Zimmerman, if you know the guy, the food guy. He's actually got a new show now. He's had Samantha Brown. He's had an incredible, and he's had me on his show as well. And Rudy has been a guest on my show. So rudymaxa.com, really, really also great guest. And maybe Rudy, one time you want to have Patti on your show because she's pretty awesome. So look at this. Anyway, let's get going on here. Okay, now we are back on a crazy mountain pass.
Yep, this was our last trek. So I was 71 at the time. This is on the Manaslu circuit. It takes, we went the Manaslu circuit. The high pass is 17,600, I think. We also went on a little side trip into an area called the Sum Valley, Tsum, and it was absolutely magnificent. The Manaslu Trek is a little bit more populated, not much. Sum Valley only opened in 2008, so there are very, very few foreigners there. It was quite wonderful. So this is at the high pass called Larkila, and our guide Deepak on the left and Tula on the right. And
now we go ahead, keep going.
We were camping on this trip because there are I think maybe now they're starting to have a few lodges, but before that there weren't. So we had a guide, two guides, because one of them knew the area really well, and a porter, and a donkey man with a bunch of donkeys, and a cook and some helpers. We felt like, you know, a big expedition, but they were all extremely thankful that we had employed them, and they took great care of us. Our cook Kusang was the most fabulous guy. This is a very long high pass. It goes on for a long time at altitude, so it took us 9 hours. I felt good because they said 9 to 12 hours, and we certainly weren't the slowest people going over. So at 71, I felt okay. But, about 2 hours from the end, Kusang and the cook guys and everything had gone ahead to get dinner ready. And they had not only gone ahead, got dinner ready, made hot mango juice, put in a thermos, and came back up 2 hours to meet us, to give us a little oomph to get the last 2 hours in. So they're pretty special people. Yeah.
I'm going to stop this presentation just for a minute, and I'm going to, we just had a guest visitor here. Come here. You kind of probably heard her meow while you were talking, so I think she was inspired by what you were saying, but this is Dar. This is Dar. Dar's my little Bengal cat, and
she's beautiful.
And yeah. She her tail will be in front of me, but let's go back because I wanted to come back. There we go, Dar. I want to come back to the to this photo because I don't think that's definitely not the Nepal flag, but you and is that Raj are holding a flag. I know these are all prayer flags. The other ones, you know, Tibetan prayer flags. But what's the with the two red bars and the white stripe? It's not Canadian. I know the Canadian flag too. So what's going on up here?
We are getting political.
Uh-oh, are we frozen? We'll come back to that. Come on. Patti froze on.
So we're getting, no. Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. So let's go back to it. What is this?
We're getting political. It's the National Congress Party, which is kind of like a Democratic Party, I think, in Nepal. So it was right around the election. We'd actually gone through one village where they had polling stations active. So we're all very interested in what was going on. So I kind of grabbed a National Congress flag from somewhere. I have it here, actually, somewhere at home.
Ah, okay. There you go. The little, politics are big. By the way, I don't know if you've heard. We're getting a new president.
Oh yeah.
I believe not tomorrow, but Wednesday. We're having a big shindig, but nobody's going to go. Crazy times. But yes, the inauguration there. So Phyllis, so we have a comment from Phyllis Evan here. She says she's 73, will likely be 74 before she can go. What do you think? And how much does it all cost for a day? I will likely be going alone. So there is one of our guests is asking the right question to the right person.
I can't tell you because it's different. I'm not sure by day what it would be. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Okay.
So she's asking if it'll be likely 74. So what do you think? And maybe not cost per day, but what would she probably want to budget for? I guess is a good question.
The Annapurna circuit I looked up the other day costs $2,000 US, but that's about 21, maybe 23 days. This is on the Ace of the Himalaya website. I would only recommend them because we know them. That includes you get airport pickup, you get your hotel in Kathmandu, your meals, all your meals on the track, guide and porter. Also, they take care of you when you get back to Kathmandu and take you back to the airport. So,
but you have to. Yeah, obviously, airfare is up to you. That's a separate thing.
Yes.
But yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And all I can say is you can go to Nepal for a month or you can go to Europe for a week. It's about the same.
This is a good way. That's why I love traveling through Eastern Europe because your money goes so much further there as well. So as opposed to Western Europe, like you said, but certainly. Western Asia, Southeast Asia, great values for sure.
Yeah.
There, let's kind of go back to our. Thanks for asking the question, Phyllis. Please, if you guys have anybody has more questions, I know we're going a little bit over time. This seems to happen a lot on the Journeys webcast because we always have so much to talk about. But I think this is maybe one of the most important photos in the slide deck today. Tell us what's going on here.
Well, this is the school in Aprek, now completed, 8 classrooms, and that was December 2018, and just went back for 3 weeks quickly on my own to visit the village, see the kids and stuff. This is 7 a.m. because those kids upstairs are grade 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're waiting for their teachers at 7 o'clock in the morning. The teachers are giving them 2 hours extra a day because after the earthquake, they were out of school for a long time. And then they were in a terrible shelter school just made of tin and bamboo with dirt floors. And they think the kids might be getting behind. So they were giving them extra classes. We've since built, at the end, there's a toilet room for the girls. We've since built one for the boys, and with about 6 washing stations. And Prem, who I mentioned is Ace of Himalaya and the NGO Sambhav Nepal, just 2 or 3 days ago was out in that area taking temperature guns, masks, and hand soap, because with one tap in the village and nobody has soap, you can tell them the guidelines of being safe as much as you want, but they don't have the materials. So he's taken stuff to 139 schools.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow. So how is we're so tunnel visioned in our own country, and then of course what the media reports and some of the in the UK and Italy and in France. How is Nepal dealing with the COVID pandemic? Have you been keeping your pulse on that at all, or do you know?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I email, or Facebook or whatever with Prem and with Raj all the time. I think about 2,000 people have died so far. Can't tell you the number of cases. I can't remember in the last couple of days. But, you think you have that small country, Nepal, population about 29 million. And it's in an area the size of 1/5 of a province of British Columbia. So they're very crowded. They're certainly crowded in the cities. There are areas in the country where the villages are, where they're not crowded at all. So, education and getting supplies out is what we're really pushing right now.
Right. Huh. Fascinating. I wanted to ask, I know we're winding down, if you could stick around a little bit, but, you were in that tent, and during these treks, you mentioned in an email to me that, and I've traveled through South America quite a bit, and I've got a friend who's also done it. And we have this kind of ongoing conversation of cuartos that we never want to know it in. And cuarto meaning a room. The cuartos you never want to go back again, but you also never forget. And you in all these treks have been in places. So tell us about what is the worst cuarto, and I don't know what the word would be in Nepalese, but the worst habit, they say also in Spanish habitación or pensión, and all these words. Tell us about that, Patti.
Well, I have to say, most of the places, the lodges on the trekking circuits, and are great. They're comfortable, they're clean. There's squat toilets, but they're there and they're clean. But excuse me, in this one remote area in Upper Mustan, we stayed in a village, and I don't want to name the village because it's not the fault of these people. A very, very rudimentary lodge. But they built a new section to the lodge, and it looked really nice, but it was up a very steep staircase, and they were all big double rooms, and I was on my own. So Raj, knowing that I occasionally have to get up to pee in the middle of the night, found me a room on the main floor. But it turned out to be it was a small room. It was fine. The bunk, the bed mattress was fine. But there were sacks of grain at the end of the bed, and I could just think that probably there would be lots of rodents around during the night. And then above me, the ceiling was made out of probably big old pieces of bamboo and kind of thatch. And then they put fabric under that to catch stuff, but they don't always catch everything. So I was waiting for bugs to come down on me, and it was just... Yeah, I couldn't get out of there soon enough, but I was right next door to the squat toilet, so it was a good thing. And
right, you had the real toilet.
We were also very, very close to the most magical place I visited on the whole trip, this cave monastery that we finally found way down a steep canyon and then up a couple hundred stairs into the side of a mountain. It was a monastery built in a cave, and they just rediscovered it 30 years ago. And there were big Buddhas, 2-story high Buddhas inside, and so you go with the discomfort and you get the rewards. Well,
this is why I always say, it's always worth to take a risk, because the risk is directly proportional to the reward. Mm-hmm. I was in Montenegro. Seems like, I want to say a year ago, but 2020 seems to be like a blur. So it really was 2019, because I didn't go anywhere in 2020. And there's a monastery called the Ostrog Monastery. It's for Saint Basil. It's an Orthodox Serbian saint in the Christian religion, and it's also built. I mean, literally, it's in the side of a mountain. I mean, think of Petra, in Jordan, and in it, and they built their own cave in there for this, and this is a big pilgrimage, and it's nothing like, you don't have to trek and deal with bugs dropping and rodents eating your grain, which probably could be part of your breakfast in the morning, but you have to go through these series of switchbacks and climbing and but well worth it. Just as we were talking about your the Cuartos we like to know, I put up a poll. So for those of you who didn't notice, I put up a poll that says, have you ever trekked in the Himalayas? So I don't know how many people answered, but the answers that you have is yes, no thank you, or not yet. And all I've gotten right now is no thank you. but we do know that Phyllis is thinking about it. So I know that's not Phyllis. So Phyllis hasn't answered yet. Yeah, for sure.
I would never want to turn people off by that one tiny little incident, because first of all, that family, because it was a small lodge, turned out to be so warm and welcoming and invited us into their family quarters rather than a spot for tourists in another room. All of these people are magnificent. You get a little bit uncomfortable, big deal. It's worth it.
Yeah, and I know that you tuned into my last webcast with Ryan Pyle, who is another Canadian. I've had so many Canadians on here. It's so wonderful. Canadians are adventurers. I mean, for sure. And Ryan, we didn't talk about it in the last webcast, but he's been on my podcast too, my audio podcast. And he says that his desire as he travels, as he treks, is to become as uncomfortable as possible. And that's a goal, not as he's looking to harm or injure, but he needs to do that to get outside his comfort zone. You have this mission in your life to help inspire people. Look at you at 73, writing your first book. You in your 60s have crossed passes of 18,000 feet. You really want to show people, maybe particularly women as well, how it is outside their comfort zone. And coming back to what we were just talking about, what the reward is once you do go outside. Tell me what's next for Patti, and how are you going to help, and what advice do you give people watching this now or possibly on the replay, because this will be up on YouTube. And we just lost her as I posed that question. She'll come back in. But what advice, thoughts would you give someone who may be a little tepid? I don't know how much of that you heard, Patti. Did you hear much of that?
I did. I'm fine now. The rewards are amazing. The kind of people you meet. And I'm not special. I mean, I'm 5'2", and I get tired and I get cranky when I'm out trekking. You just put one foot in front of the other, but then you come around a corner and you see the most magnificent mountains in the world, or you meet some little child, and the children are just incredible. Everybody is so welcoming and happy. There's really something very special about, in particular, that we think about Nepali people and Tibetan people. They're very incredible. So it's worth it. Our next thing, last October, had it not been for COVID, we would have been back in Aprok building 2 houses. A group from my Rotary Club is fundraising, and we have almost enough for 2 houses, because every house, was ruined in the earthquake, and very few people have money to put up another house. So they're living under tarps and tin shelters. And so we decided to get a group together, so that we had 15 people signed up. 2 of them were young girls that would have come with me to the school to help teach. So that's what's happening. And I'm working on another book.
Yeah, tell us about the other book.
Well, that's called, I'm about halfway through the first draft. It's called Grounded by Granite. And it's a story of a childhood summers on a remote island in the Canadian Shield, before electricity, before anybody else was on the lake, what it was like. And it's kind of not just a tribute to my family and my parents, but it's a cautionary tale to parents now, to show them you can do well without electricity and technology, that if you get the kids off the iPad and away from things, there's so much that they can imagine and learn and do. We had I didn't realize the skills I had growing up of paddling and swimming and rowing and, you know,
Yeah.
catching fish, catching frogs, all those things. We took it for granted. And not everybody
Yeah.
does that. So.
No, it's true. And I just saw a poll or a survey and an analysis of how much screen time for kids has gone up in the COVID time, because for two things. The analysis was for the younger kids. It's for their parents to keep them busy so that because they can't really go outside or, you know, to be social. And then for the teens, it still gives them that have a stronger need to be social. That interactivity with the devices has been a bit of a, you know, both a blessing and a curse, I guess, you know, for the time. Because you're right, you know, I mean, there's nothing like getting out there, catching frogs, paddling a canoe through some remote area, climbing a mountain, hiking, trekking, just, you know, building a campfire, you know, all these things we take for granted. Well, last question I wanted to ask you is words of advice for anybody thinking about whether they're 25 or whether they're 85, about you know, stepping out their comfort zone. What do you say? How's a good way to, you know, what are the tiny steps you first need to make, and how do you start to go to the bigger ones and then the leap?
Well, I have a motto that I got from a gentleman I know that used to go cross-country skiing every day in the season outside of Vancouver, and he was 90 at the time. And his motto, and now mine, is stay positive and keep moving, baby. You just have to get out there and do it. I remember the first time I ran a mile, I thought I was going to die. I don't run anymore. Mostly I cross-country ski, but you just take it in little bits and you keep going, one foot in front of the other, one day at a time.
Are you doing any downhill?
I have not been out downhill because it was crowded during the holiday, but I'll get out, yeah. I've done
okay.
classic.
So you cross country,
classic and skate, and as I said, snowshoe, and then the next couple of days I'll get out downhill. Yeah.
Yeah. So snowshoe, classic, cross country, and some downhill. Yeah. Well, awesome. I really want to thank you for tuning in and being a real special guest here on the Journeys Webcast. This has been absolutely fun. I could talk to you for hours. I would love to see some of more Barry's photographs. You guys are an inspiration for anybody who hasn't made that big leap to travel to somewhere that isn't a place where you stick an umbrella and a drink, and enjoy what this beautiful world and the people that populate it have to offer all of us. So thank you, Patti.
Oh, thank you.
Been great. I want to put up in my sidebar here the replay for this webcast, as well as the 29 others. This is the 30th of great people. We've had other mountain climbers like Ryan, and with Jeff Sauls, and so many great people. All those replays are available on my YouTube channel. And I'd love to get people to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm on this goal. I've got this goal to get 1,000 subscribers so I can become one of their official partners, as they say. So if you're watching this on the replay or right now, just go to the offer section, click the subscribe button, subscribe to. There's so many great content, not only the Journeys Webcast, but from my travels on a motorcycle all over the world, 80 different countries. There's different things that will captivate you, inspire you, and certainly give you a little bit of wanderlust. So tune in there, and I would love to see you on the next Journeys Webcast. So if you signed up for this one, you will get a notice for the next one. I've got some great guests coming up, including the maker, the designer. It's totally opposite of this kind of conversation, but the Coravin, for those wine people, the inventor of the Coravin, which pretty much has changed some of the way people drink wine. He'll be a guest. So we've got lots of good stuff. So subscribe to my channel. You'll get notices, and I really appreciate it. Patti, you've been so cool. I'm gonna just play this little video, and we'll say goodbyes at the back end of this. This is the little closing. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Journeys Webcast. I'm Allan Karl, your host. Be sure to tune us in every Monday. The time changes depending on where we are in the world. This is Allan Karl, and where will your next journey take you? Patti, thank you. Please send my thanks to Barry for letting me have you for this long time.
Now I have to go make dinner. Yeah.
There you go. What's for dinner tonight?
You know what? I don't know. I'll find out when I go to the fridge, I think.
Okay. You know me. I love, my book is riddled with recipes from all over the world. So
that I like the idea of the bits, the chapters. That's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, it and $2.99. It's a no-brainer. You can just try it. One of them, and it took me. It's been over 2 years to pull that thing together, because I didn't want to just repurpose the what do you call it? Just the analog to the digital. I wanted to add value, so I had to go and create 35 special videos or slideshows or things.
That's
crazy.
A great idea.
But yeah,
I love your opening and closing too. The opening just gets you so wanting to travel. That was magnificent.
Well, we are all waiting to travel again, and I hope that there's one time I will see you face to face, Patti, and we'll toast to up the mountain. Here's to up the mountain. Okay, Patti, we'll talk soon. Thanks again. Thank Patti Lefkos, my guide. Visit her website, Patti Shales Lefkos, and get her book Nepal, available on Amazon. We'll see you on the next one.